Alright, what's up YouTube? MCO40 here. We have a special guest today.
What's going on, guys? It's Simo. I'm happy to be here.
We're going to be beating down some discussions today. Actually, I drug Simo out of his hole and I figured, it's getting kind of boring talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! By myself. So, let's see if we have someone as knowledgeable as I am. You think you can take the test, Simo?
Oh, I can definitely take the test. Let's go.
Ooh, I like that. Alright, so we're going to be talking about Zoo and the possibility of a ban list / adjusted list.
Adjusted list.
Adjusted list. AKA Raging Tempest takes it up the butthole.
AKA Konami doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, so they need to pretend like they do.
Oh, that is true. Alright, well, let's start with the first elephant in the room, Kirin. Alright?
Okay.
Kieran has been the major hitter on a lot of the metagame, especially Metaphos. You have essentially 4 copies in your deck. Do you think it's time for Kieran to just bite the bullet and get the fuck out of the game?
I definitely think it's time for Kieran to go, and especially after the OCG already hit it as well. I think Kieran's definitely on the chopping block for our list. The fact that, like you said, we have potentially four copies of Kieran in the Metal Foes list, and on top of that, Metal Foes Zoo is arguably the best variant right now, and Kieran is essentially part of the reason why that's the case. So if you take Kieran out of Metal Foes Zoo, sure, Metal Foes Zoo is still a very strong deck, but Kieran just kind of takes it over the top. So I definitely think Kieran's head's on the chopping block.
The interesting thing about when you're looking at Kirin as a card, though, like, the only real hard way that Zoo can actually beat it, besides, having the Kaiju open in the app, you have to hard do the barrier, call Pendulum, and then you have to out it that way. And then you have to disrupt the scales. Like, it happens, though.
Yeah. But I think what creates a really interesting dynamic with Kieran is that a lot of people with Zoo coming out, they've moved, and they've seen this in the OCG. They've wanted to move to cards that are targeting again. Cards like Book of Moon, Forbidden Chalice, Trident targets, all these different cards, because stopping Zoo is really easy with these cards. Compulsory Evacuation Device is another one. But inherently, Kieran has protection from all of those cards, which just makes Kieran that much better, and which makes the Metal Zoo variant just that much stronger of a build compared to, the Kaiju build, the Pure build, or any build for that matter.
If you're looking at, how the OCG handled a lot of their situations, though, there was a triangle format before the list really took effect there, and you also have to remember ABCs are one of the 3 decks that kind of just existed in that void. That obviously, I'm sure you've seen the discussions in the TCG. It's the one thing that beats Zoo is a fucking Dragon Buster with a barrier behind it.
The barrier, right?
Yeah, but how often does that happen? I've gone undefeated a few weeks locals, but you don't see that fucking barrier and that Dragon Buster as much as you want.
No, mathematically, ABC, it's not on your side, because, depending on your build, you have, a 30 to 40% chance just to open, Union Hanger plus, Enabler, Gadget or Thrasher, but then you have to multiply that by the probability of getting a Dimensional Barrier, which is only in, 7 cards, your 5 opening plus your 2, you're drawing off Tsukiyomi. So, realistically, that probability that you're bringing that 30-40% down to maybe, 20-30, where Zoo has an 86% chance to open its standard combo, and then you're also playing strikes and barriers and everything else under the sun. So
you're exactly right, but you also have to remember ABC's the only deck right now that can still use Pot of Desires, which
that's true. Okay. But, if you're just solely going off the fact, okay, what's easier to do? Do a Zoo combo or make a Dragon Buster? You have... What's it going to be,
Well, what are the odds? What was it? You have, a 40% chance to open up, what is it, Kirin Mithra Trident in the Zoo Metal variant?
Yeah, it's around, 40, I think.
But, that's too fucking high.
That's as high as opening Barrier and Dragon Buster.
Well, if you're maining Barrier, what does it go down to, 30% if you add the Barrier into the equation?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the Barrier, but just opening Buster is 30 to 40. But yeah, so if you're going Kirin Mithra and Trident, playing by the numbers, that's just as strong of an opening as, Buster is.
That is true. But to be honest with you, we both agree on Kieran. We know it needs to be removed from the game.
Yeah.
We just talked about probability and statistics there. The card is fucking insane, man.
Well, and quickly too, I just talked about targeting. Everyone's
Mm-hmm.
playing 3 Slumber, 2 Dark Hole, Regeki, so and Torrential even. Some people have been playing Torrential, so that's up to 7 board wipes that Kieran is also immune to.
Yeah, that's like just having a card that like can. I get that in the minds of some players, having a card that is immune to general board wipes can be it's rewarding to them for establishing it on the board. I can understand to a degree where it's good for the game, but the problem is Kieran also has a savage effect.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with Kieran. Like, yes, it's easy to out, and yes, you can follow it up with a slumber play, but like you still have to open up a consistent plan of 3 cards: the Zoo Enabler, the Slumber, and the Kaiju. That's still pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. It's like everyone's talking about, Kaiju OTK combo. All you need is 2 cards. Well, Kieran just immediately stops that.
I spent pretty much all morning this morning watching post Maximum Crisis stuff, and I seen the Kaiju OTK work once out of like 9 matches.
Yeah,
and that's post Crisis, but still.
It's funny how like the meta shifts that way, something that's like this good right now, but then, when Maximum Crisis comes out, it's not going to do hardly like near the amount of damage that it can do right now.
Fun fact, did you know that Tiger King can out Kieran?
Because it negates the effect?
Yep.
Yep.
That's something I read this morning. I'm like, wait a minute, Tiger King does something.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's shift away from Kieran here. Let's talk about ABC as a deck.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So we know Zoo is going to be the god be all, but do you think at this stage going forward in the game that we actually can consider ABC as a problem because of how powerful Zoo is? I mean, you forget everything that was currently tier 1 at this point in time shifted back, I would argue, a whole tier, and Zoo entered into the fray. So do we really need to clean up the old problems now, or can we just let those people that are enjoying those old decks continue to enjoy them?
I think Konami has this issue where they're almost like delayed in how they hit decks sometimes. Like if you look at ban lists or like ban list reactions that we've all done in the past, like they're obviously hit the problem cards more often than not. Like we said, Kieran's probably going to get hit. But then like when you saw the OCG's list, they hit stuff like Union Hanger, and then, they hit like Totally Awesome, and they hit all these other cards. But like when Zodiac's taking up like 80% of the format, like at that point, is it even relevant? Because Zodiac's just so inherently powerful, it's just taking them out completely. So I've always been of the argument that I like when the ban list is very liberal with the amount of things. I'm sorry, very conservative with the amount of things they add to the list. I say the more cards that are available in the game, the better, because it just allows for more creativity, better deck building, and ultimately just makes the game better because this entire list of cards that no one wants to play. So like personally, when I saw that they hit Union Hanger to 1, I didn't even think that was necessary because no one's playing ABC because Zoo's so powerful. I think at YCS Seattle coming up this weekend, ABC is still going to be very prominent because if you remember when Zoo first came out in the OCG, you saw that there was like this weird like triangle with like Zoo, Metal Foe, and like ABC were all still kind of prevalent. But then like the next meta-analysis that came out, like Zoo just took over fucking everything. So I think Seattle's going to be the event where that transition happens. And people realize that decks like ABC just really can't keep up to the sheer consistency of Zoo. And then that's where Zoo's kind of just have its full-on takeover, unless we get like an adjusted list or something like that.
You see, when you make the argument about having more cards available, the better for the game, let's look back at Monarchs here. Monarchs were honestly a deck that I considered that didn't need to get hit going into the last list because of how everything power creeped. And honestly, Monarchs could have still been one of the decks that did well. Now I'm looking at ABCs, I'm like, you guys are going to be the next victim of this because your time is up. We know that. You can still let the deck be at full power and let the deck do what it does for the budget players.
Right.
And we all know it's going to get slaughtered because of what it's done. And
yeah,
it's a shame when you look at the equation of how things work because it's like, well, deck is done. Just leave it alone. But Konami's going to come in and just smack it around. It's like, you're dead now. Like, yeah, you're...
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because, like, again, like I really feel like they're delayed. It's almost like they have these meetings for the ban list like 2 or 3 weeks prior to when they actually release it, and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, this new archetype called Zoo is out, so it just completely power creeps ABC, so it's not necessary. But ABC needs a card like Union Hanger still at 3 to even have a chance against Zoo.
A lot of people in the past have made the comparison of like with the ban list is money driven. Obviously, people want Konami wants people to buy more product, And in the past, the list was driven of that. Now, I haven't really seen that so much anymore. I mean, they took the timer off the list, so I guess you can't really make that argument so much unless you look at Tempest and the possibility of a list. But I'm still a fan of thinking we might not get a list till after, April, into April, because of Duelist Advent rolling around here soon.
Yeah, and I feel like it's frustrating for a lot of people because they just announced YCS Atlanta. That's a few weeks after Seattle. And then the UDS Championship is a few weeks after that.
And then literally 2 weeks after that, Advent comes out, which is the
Exactly, Advent comes out. So, where are they going to squeeze a list into all of this?
I mean, I assume that Advent's going to have the reprinted cards of, Rescue Cat and shit like that. So, if any time, that would be the time I could see it in there.
Yeah.
But I don't think any time before that, though, because Konami would have advertised... They've given players enough of a heads up that they won't change the list for the UDS. Mm-hmm. And I think we're too close to Atlanta for a list.
I agree. So, I mean, if anything, yeah, we're looking at late March, early April. And that's... If you go by that logic, that's a long time.
Yeah, there's too many little stepping stones at the moment in the community. Obviously, I enjoy sitting down and talking about these things that are rolling around, because, there are obviously problems. Sure. One of the old problems that we had a list or so ago in the OCG was, look at Dark Synchro. We were scared shitless of that deck.
We were terrified.
And we have that deck at, 100%, and no one in the TCG's playing that trash?
Nope.
I
Except that one guy at Locals.
Well, no, I think it snuck a regional win in this week.
Did it? I didn't see where it snuck in.
I think it snuck in a regional win. You know what else is at full power right now? DDDs.
Yeah, the 2 week deck.
So obviously Swirl Slime and whatnot's hit in Japan, but do you think that deck is gonna just be the new Mermails? With Mermails, it'll creep up at the beginning of a format and be like, "Hey guys, I'm here," and then just disappear.
I think DDD's in a really awkward spot because I feel like DDD and Zoo do very similar things because they both create these boards that are very difficult to deal with. But the issue is DDDs obviously create the better board. Crystal Wing Siegfried Harbinger in a most idealistic situation is incredible. But you need 4 cards to get that combo to pull off. And with Zoo, you only need 1 card to do your board of Dryden Emerald and then, however many back row. And the thing is, the board that Zoo creates is just good enough that it makes your opponent sweat and usually will win you the game if you go first. And DDD creates that same board but takes way more resources, but you're going to win the game either way. So, do you want to win just using 1 card that you can pull off a lot more consistently or 4 cards that you hope you get and then, ultimately it's going to achieve the same goal? So I feel like DDD's in this awkward spot as long as Zoo exists because we got the structure deck so late. Remember, Japan had that structure deck way before we did and way before Zoo was even in existence.
I don't know if you know this, but Zoo can actually break the DDD boards very easily. It's kind of scary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And, our whole measuring stick for this format right now is all right, well, we have Zoo over here, just chilling here, and the rest of the meta's down here. So... Man, it looks like somebody's giving head.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, DDD still got the same problem it did. It's still glass cannon. I don't think they have to fucking do anything to the deck. We have an interesting metagame though. We have Dark Synchro at 100%, DDDs, Metal Foes ? And ABCs. And we pretty much agree that none of these decks need anything to happen to them except for Kieran. Mm-hmm. The card just needs to get the fuck out of the game.
You mentioned Water, though, too, and I think Water has a very interesting matchup right now as well because it doesn't lose to D-Barrier. Nope. It wants to go second, so you can pretty much build your deck to go second, and because you don't lose the D-Barrier and you can run, Gamma Seals, I mean, you can even run Slumbers if you wanted to as well, but you can easily OTK with Water, and, the percentage of OTK is extremely high. So you could almost build that deck to just go second and go second in every match. And as long as you can somehow make the build correctly and consistently enough to just, not lose to Strike or something, then, I mean, I think Water's up there as well as a pretty solid option right now.
I made that argument at the beginning and then you just realize the Dryden just fucks over every OTK you could pretty much do, unfortunately. It's kind of a shame because if you don't have the maximum play to optimize and you're forced to trigger the Megalo at the beginning of the chain, you just kind of get blown out, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, that's where you got, your Gamma Seals. If you run this Kaiju, if you run Slumber, you could do that. You could even main Chalice at this point. Maining Chalice is a very good card. choice in my opinion right now.
That's true. I think I would put water at the lower end of the tier 2 bracket though.
I would. I mean, yeah, ultimately, yeah, but it's still, I'd say it's still competitively viable up there with ABC, DDD, all that other stuff.
No, definitely.
It's more, yeah, I would agree it's at the lower end of the spectrum, though.
Well, okay, we're going to talk about Blue Eyes and Heroes here, because actually okay, so hypothetically, if you're playing Blue Eyes, you can still make the board of a Morphage doing the Arc Brave and the whole shenanigans. As long as your opponent doesn't have the Kaiju to answer that, you're in one hell of a good position, correct?
Yeah.
And the same thing can be said about Heroes. Totally awesome. Dark Law is still very much a threat for the Zoo player if they don't have the out for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, like, if you're going to go to an 8-round regional, those plays might not be super consistent, but you know, you still have the same power there. And also with the price of Zoo, like, if you're going to play Blue Eyes and Heroes, as long as your entire day isn't filled with Zoo, then you could have a very good rogue match.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because, again, it really goes back to the percentages of how often you can open these things. Because, you know, the Morphage lock is extremely powerful. And, you know, Dark Law, Toad, you know, all the other crazy shit that Heroes can do is also really good, but the problem is you can't open that as consistently as, you know, just a basic rat combo. Yeah, so I would agree with you. They're very good, like, rogue picks as long as you're not playing a lot of Zoo, but, you know, as long as Zoo's here, Zoo's here to stay.
So now this brings me to my next topic about the banlist side of this video, Norden.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Norden plus rat is super good, but do you think it's time for Norden to go? Because they did give us Theseus to keep Instant Fusion's value there.
Yeah.
So what do you think here?
So it's funny. I actually mentioned that when I found out that Theseus was coming out, I said that this basically Norden's death sentence because they just basically want another good Instant Fusion target. But interesting fact, OCG never had Instant Fusion and like Zoo together because Norden was banned before Zoo existed. And now we have it. And it's really fucking good because you can play through Strike, which is like Strike's honestly like as big of a threat as D-Barrier if like you don't have a Twin Twist or anything to out it. So like if you have the Instant Fusion, you're just back to square one and you just do your whole combo all over again. But I definitely do think that it's probably Norden's time to go because it's just it adds the deck already does so much, and then when you attempt to stop it and then they have an Instant Fusion and they're just back to where they started. It's just absurd.
Yeah, I know. I fucking got my Momarat striked on the normal summon. I'm like, haha, sucks to be you, noob. Instant Fusion. I know, like, the Instant Fusion it leaves another level 4 on the field for you just to combo off with even harder. Like, and the fact that you can hard summon the Broad Bull in addition to, you know, the overlay of the Broad Bull, it's so cancerous, man.
The versatility Instant Fusion provides too, like worst case scenario, if you open like Whiptail Instant Fusion, you can just summon Whiptail, Instant Fusion Norden, make Bull, add Rat, and like make Dryden, and like you're good for next turn. Or at the very, very worst, it's a free Gagaga Samurai or Daigusto Emerald that you didn't need to make with your Rats. So like, where's the downside here? It's insane.
I remember back in the day when Instant Fusion just turned into a Lightning, man.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't too long ago. ABC was doing that all day.
You know, that's another card that we were bitching about a lot was Lightning, and now the card just looks like it power creeped the fuck out.
Yeah. Lightning's really interesting because I've seen people splash the Utopia engine in, like, their Zoo builds. Like, people either play, like, Castell and, like, another random, like, rank 4, or they play the Utopia package. And Utopia is interesting because it can kill a Whiptail without it triggering, I believe. Because won't its Armades effect not trigger the Whiptail?
I believe so.
Yeah, so you can actually kill, as long as like Dryden's already used its effect, if they have a Whiptail equipped, you can kill it and your monster's going to survive. So that's actually a very interesting application for it.
Man, that seems so much win more though. Like,
oh no, it definitely is. The 5K is nice though.
If you need the definitely. But I would still rather have Castell Tiger King in that scenario. Just as like my options.
Yeah, like because Castell's just so much more flexible for dealing with problem cards. Like, you don't need the Utopia.
And your Zoo extra deck is so fucking tight as it is. Like,
yeah,
it's not. I literally said it's tighter than a virgin pussy. Like, at some point. Like, am I wrong?
Yeah, you're not. I mean, if you're not playing Instant Fusion, you basically have 3 slots. And then if you are playing Instant Fusion, you have 2.
Yeah, so like good luck, have fun.
Yeah.
That's not all, folks. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Please check out my Cardfight Vanguard channel, VanCole40. You guys will get an insight on our playtesting sessions. And please check out the Zodiac Duelist TV Twitch stream. That way you guys can follow the House of Champions and MCole40 interactions. Please check out MCole Games for all of your guys' trading card game needs. And if you guys enjoyed this content, please check out my Patreon in the description. Every bit helps to the creation of these videos. One step at a time in improvement, and that's the goal of this channel. Alright guys, have a good time, and thanks for watching.